So it's pretty expensive to buy an interview coach. What if you could have access to an interview coach for free? That's today's video. We have Dr. Nancy Lee, who has coached hundreds of PMs into getting jobs at FAANG Company, and herself was a former director of product, so has interviewed and hired many PMs. We're going to ask her all sorts of questions around how to really succeed in the PM interview process. But first, can you maybe introduce yourself?
Yes. Hey guys. Hi, Akash. Thank you for having me on the show. And hey guys, this is Dr. Nancy Lee, a direct product featured in Forbes that helps 1,000 people land the dream PM job offer in FAANG companies and unicorn startup and continuously to get promoted as a product leader. And as Akash described, and yes, I was a direct product for a couple of years, and now I'm running product management accelerator full time and also a proud mom of two with a young newborn baby. I have my hands full, but I love to share anything I know regarding how to help you guys to break into product management or getting a director level positions or become an AI PM, because we already have a lot of students actually at this year landing job offer from Google, Meta, and Amazon and NVIDIA as an AI product manager, and of course non-AI PMs as well. So it's a lot of latest trend I like to share with all of you guys.
Awesome. That's actually the first question I had was, everybody watching this has experienced a rough couple years. That's probably why they're watching this video in the product management job market. I know personally, just from my LinkedIn inbox, back in 2019, I used to probably get 1 or 2 recruiter emails every single day. In 2021, that went up to like 4 or 5. And then in 2022, it really nosedived to almost 0. In 2023, it's finally picked up to like 1 or 2 a week. And now in 2024, it's still just at that 1 or 2 a week. So it feels to me like the market is a lot slower for product managers. What is your experience with the job market? Are people still getting product manager jobs? Has the field contracted? What is kind of the current state of product management hiring in 2024?
Great question. You're right. Your observation is actually correct. But I have to say the market already started to warm up based on my observation. And also depends on what type of roles, because product management is a broader spectrum. And if you're AI PM, you'll definitely get more interview opportunities in general. Or maybe depends on the type of industry you're in, maybe healthcare. And I know in general, healthcare is a recession-proof company. They always hired almost the same kind of among the people, or actually during the pandemic, and actually lots more healthcare openings, and even post-pandemic, and I have seen more students. And for example, one of our students lands 3 healthcare offers in like April this year. So depends on the industry you're in, but in general, the market is not as good as 2 years ago, but it started to warm up. That's how I see what trends is going right now. Oh, another thing I want to share is regarding where the FAANG companies and all different companies with hiring right now. And insider tip, one of those FAANG companies, they start to shift the focus of their strategies, and just do not remove the name of the FAANG, but literally one of the FAANG is crazy. So they have a new director, they also have the new VP. Once have those new leadership, they start to put a big amount of existing traditional PM on PIP, performance improvement plan, and then replace them by new fresh blood, because they want to shift the focus into AI. So they want to have more AI PM in the companies as well. And for in early this year, all the FAANG offers we receive right now is all in the AI space, because that's the guaranteed department is going to grow. Of course, some traditional department may or may not be growing either, but the market is still very dynamic and changing, but we still see lots of new offers and new interview coming in. And actually the time start to pick up in March, starting from March, because inside our PM Accelerator, we'll have the offer celebration every single week. Starting March, we'll have a lot more celebration. And before that, like January, February, definitely very slow. Yeah,
that's exactly what I saw. And in fact, in January and February, we saw so many layoffs in product management. So people tracking this metric, the layoffs, there's a report by a firm called Challenger. And I find that that's very representative, and it tracks exactly with what Dr. Nancy was saying, which is that in March and April, we saw a drop off and we saw an increase in hiring. And a lot of that also, I've been coaching some people to FAANG jobs recently, has tracked the stock price. So if you look at the stock price of Apple and Meta, they're back to kind of their all-time highs. And that's why those companies are hiring again. And you see NVIDIA, their stock is going crazy, so they're hiring more. And then a big sort of dark horse that I've seen hiring a lot of PMs recently is OpenAI. And we see that they increased their revenue from 1.6 billion in December to 3.4 billion today. So all those companies that are seeing a lot of growth, those companies are hiring a lot of PMs. So we see companies like Ramp or Reddit, which just recently went public, are hiring. On the other hand, any company that has faced sort of revenue tailwinds or even is decreasing in growth, like a Brex or something, we've seen a huge slowdown in hiring. So that's how I would think about it for people listening. That's the state of the market. Now let's move into the state of PM interviews itself. So what have you seen in terms of what people have to go through in the process? Are the same types of case interviews like product design, product sense, execution, the top things that people are encountering? Anecdotally for me, what I've seen is a huge rise in homework. Basically, everybody I talk to these days, they either get a homework assignment where they have to write a PRD, or they get a presentation where they need to present to a panel. How have you seen kind of the process change over time?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely your observation is the same as what I've seen. Lots of homework, and lots of our students get or ask to do even the first round homework assessment. And there's more and more than before. And even in the later round of interviews, they have them to do presentation. This happens a lot. Hey, just give me a presentation about your past product. Is like almost half of the company start to do those kind of engagement a lot more than before. Yeah, and the way we tell students to really do homework, you should see it as if it's a real interview. It's just take-home assignments. You still need to use the right framework and really present your answer in the right way. And another quick tip is I also recommend our students to do part of portfolio ahead of time, because part of portfolio is going to help you to land an interview, help you stand out. And then when they have you to presentation of your past product, or even for the new company's product, half the homework is done already.
Yes, that's a huge thing. And that's why I recently wrote a piece on portfolios. I feel like a year ago, a portfolio was a lot less helpful because not everybody was asking for homework. Now, if you have a portfolio, there's two things. One, they might not ask you for homework if it's the standardized process and they've already seen it. And then two, if you do get that homework, at least you have a head start. You've already thought about, this was the problem, this is the solution, these were the explorations we did, and these were the metrics. And then you can basically beef up that framework for your homework. Speaking of homework though, let's dive into that. I'm trying to come up with sort of big buckets of these are the types of homework assignments that you can see based on level. So from my experience, like on the junior side, there's actually even this homework, which is basically like smartness assessment. Like somebody just sent me one where they had to take like a personality and an IQ score. So that typically happens for junior. Then there's like the product review document or strategy document where they ask you to literally create a work product that would be similar to what you have. And then the final is the presentation where it is kind of like a product review simulation. That's one type of presentation. Or the second type of presentation is what you mentioned, which is tell us about a prior product or experience that you launched. So I think those are the categories at the junior level. At the senior level, I haven't seen any of those silly personality or IQ assessments. I haven't seen any product requirements documents. I've seen very few product strategy documents either. I've seen primarily presentations, and I've seen presentations of kind of like three sorts. So one is like, how would you handle this specific thing within our business? Two is like, what is your vision and org structure for this role? And then three is more of like a historical, like how did you do something in a prior role? Does that categorization resonate with you? Did I miss anything? What's kind of the most frequent amongst those?
Yeah, great question. And actually it's matching what I've seen so far. I also want to add one thing, which lately we discovered some students even interviewing with Oracle, one of those larger companies. The first one is recorded video interview by robot. There is this hey, you're talking to robot today. Let me ask you a question. Then you just whatever you want to say and send over to robot and they're going to evaluate. It's crazy. Yes, this has become a real, like, very fierce competition in the job market right now. The rest is the same as what you described. The most frequent homework I've seen is they ask you to take home assignment and then they ask to present your outcome. This is all the time. Hey, what if you're trying to solve this ABCD problem for the company? What's your thought process? Think about it, okay? Do it at home. After you come back, you have half an hour to present your outcome to us. So it's a combo. This happens a lot, especially towards the later round of the interview. But nowadays, the take-home assignments from the first round all the way to final round as well. For director or above level, what I have seen is they really love to see the strategic planning you had within the company, and literally the more senior you have, the more strategy type of conversation you need to have with the interviewer. And sometimes they don't even give you the official homework. Sometimes, what do you think? So the best way which I taught my students to do it is whenever they say, what do you think? Especially very senior level, just bring your part of portfolio using the Gucci framework. We have 3 different style part of portfolio, but one of the ways is say, hey, why don't you just use the Gucci framework and show them the product strategy, which in my YouTube channel, I spend lots of time giving people examples of Gucci framework. Literally, it's a holy grail of how you really land those very senior positions as well.
Can you give us kind of the 30-second overview of the Gucci framework?
Oh, yes. So Gucci framework is I personally invented. Sounds very fancy, but stands for G goes the mission of company. U stands for unmet customer needs. I won't highlight unmet customer needs, not like normal pain point, unmet. C stands for customer segmentation, and another C stands for competition, and I stands for integrated ecosystem. So this is the Gucci framework.
Nice. Awesome. So we've talked a little bit about the market, how the process has changed. Now I want to get into the actual interviews themselves. What I've heard recently, so I just did a piece where I talked to 12 people who were at or worked at Meta, for instance, is that these companies are like reading this content that you and I produce. And anytime we have like an example question, they're removing that from their question bank. And then they're kind of coming up with new sorts of questions. And I'm curious, like what you've seen on that front in terms of how have the different case types, sense, design, execution, and behavioral, how have those changed over time?
Okay, great question. I have great insider details. Yes, they shift some cases, but some cases still repeat, but they do change it. Let me show you the new cases they have right now. Literally, one of my students joined Meta in March. She asked exact this interview questions. Oh, Meta, please do not remove this interview question in your database. But it's this one. It's about healthcare. What should Meta do in the space of healthcare? That's it. And this is not just one healthcare question. I see a sequence of many, many more healthcare questions in the interview questions database. Not just Meta and Google and all of this. The reason is during the pandemic, there's lots of new healthcare cases. People think more about healthcare, which is the same thing I said earlier. I believe healthcare is a recession-proof business. They always hire more people. There's a lot of big problems to be solved in this space. So these companies start looking into healthcare case as well. So they are very staying up to date regarding current economy. And for example, they also add new cases such as design a work from home environment. Literally, this is invented by the pandemic. Now we're post-pandemic. Probably they're gonna ask you more questions, for example, related to transportation, because there's more stress, more demand for transportation. So it has shifted a little bit, but I do see the same case, which are also getting asked in the past 5 years, same case, which is define the success metrics of Facebook event. And I made a YouTube video about that, revealing my computer science PhD framework to answer those product metrics, product execution question. And then later on, I thought, wow, you are still asking people this question. It has been 5 years still doing that, but it's definitely shifting. But some of those still stays, but they definitely shift.
Cool. And I'll just add on to that. So kind of by case, some of the trends I've seen. So In the product sense interview, I used to see a lot of specific to the product and team that you're working on. And what I've since found is that there's been sort of a cultural shift where everyone has said, that's bad. You're getting free work from people. Don't do that. You're getting different levels of experience with the product. And so I've seen a pretty huge reduction in the product sense round around the actual company and product you're interviewing for. So at Meta, if you're interviewing for Instagram newsfeed, they might have asked about that in the past. Nowadays, they are not going to ask about that. And it's not just at Meta, it's actually like everywhere. Like at Apollo, when I was hiring a director of product, I used to ask them like, hey, like help fix activation, because that's what you're going to work on. And I want to see what your ideas are. But now we would say like help activation of Google Drive or something.
Yeah.
So it would be like an analogous. And this is because there's been this cultural trend against free work. So that's the product sense side. The product design side, I think too many people have prepared for what's your favorite product and how would you improve it. So I think that used to be basically like guaranteed somebody would ask you that. Nowadays, I'm hearing from a lot of people that they're never asked that question. And then on the product execution side, I've seen a much more on 2 execution questions in one interview than just one. Yeah. So people can't like go too slow on these execution questions. They actually need to practice pace on these execution questions. And then I've seen in general a huge rise in product strategy questions. So this probably has been as there are less feature factory PMs out there, more empowered PMs, more focused on strategy. A lot of times they'll ask you almost what I consider like product strategy, like as a role too. So most product managers every day, we're not thinking about how would Facebook enter the healthcare market, like that example you just gave. That's almost like a strategic question. You think like McKinsey or Bain would be answering that, but they're asking those types of questions to product managers much more. Do those resonate with you? Are there any other sort of interview specific trends you've noticed?
Yeah, that's the same trends I have seen as well. And I just want to bring this up to one of the biggest mistakes people made when they use different kind of framework to answer those questions, especially when you mention McKinsey. Hey guys, please do not use the MISI framework by Victor Chan. He was my coach. He was my coach 15 years ago when I just graduated from my PhD. I started when I was 10 for my PhD, guys. Okay, so back now, and not that old. So Victor Chan invented MISI framework. Hey guys, do not ask me to explain this because if I explain it, you're gonna go into the loophole of using the wrong framework. And please do not use like McKinsey or consultant style framework to do product strategy or product science or any kind of product. It's very different. How they do customer segmentation is based on money. Let me cut the customer segmentation into a tofu. And then for product management, it's more empathy and what's real customers. And we did at Cash. I was on your channel, did product sense examples when we cut our customer segmentation. It's different way compared to how McKinsey people cut it. So please do not use any of those product like any of the McKinsey or management consulting style framework to do any product strategy, product design, product metrics questions. It's different. You can think about it, but never fully use the framework. Is like half of the framework, in my personal opinion, is incorrect. It's going to make you lose the offer.
Yeah, very interesting. It's almost like the anti-consultant bias.
Yes. Yeah, but don't use the MISI framework. That's my point.
That's like a trend in general is I think that a lot of consultants were hired when the field was expanding rapidly over the last 3 to 4 years. And personally, I think that they make pretty good PMs, usually because they're used to working 60, 70 hours a week. So they just outwork other PMs. But the problem is that skill set of being able to impress executives isn't exactly the same skill set as building products that users want. And so I've seen more and more that actually like, especially product leadership is coming from design instead of consulting, and product managers are coming from engineering instead of business. Do those trends resonate with you?
Yeah, exactly. I think the McKinsey type of roles may get you foot in the door, but whether you can create amazing product, get promoted is a very different story. I literally have somebody, one of my students, she came from McKinsey and joined one of the Fortune 20 companies, but not tech company, one of Fortune 20 non-tech companies. Now, even when I do product like strategy mock interview with her, I just feel, wow, your thinking process completely different. It's very operational focused. It's not those kind of big tech companies with product strategy like questions. So it's different. The thinking process is different. Help you maybe get in the door when you mentioned the name McKinsey, but who really win the race to be the product leader, VP of product in different companies is completely like depends on your own skill set after you join the company.
Yep. So now I want to get into like kind of tactical interview coaching. We talked a lot about the market and trends and where things are. Now we want to get more into the timeless advice. So like me, you do quite a bit of interview coaching, and I find myself just saying the same things to people over and over and over again. It's almost as if like, did you read my content? Did you watch my content? What are those sort of, 3 or 4 things that you're always telling people in coaching calls?
Great question. Let me think about. Great question. So I like how you described. Did you read it? Yeah. So let me think about it. When I do coaching with other people, number one, I always want them to think bigger scope. This usually I recommend all my students, entry level or executive level, always think about how would you be able to do it in a bigger scope right now. Because a lot of time when people talk about their past experience, in today's economy, landing a job, it's not just tell me, well, what did you do in this company? What part did you launch? It's not just, hey, exactly what you did. It's about sell yourself. The whole interview is about selling yourself. You need to think strategically, think about what the hiring manager want to hear, and also talk about your impact, scope, and the scope of work, why you're working on this product, and everything needs to be up to the next level to be able to even pass a first round of interview. And the second advice I teach people during our mock interviews and also coaching calls is that let's think forward, not backward. Forward means that what if you already joined the company? What the future look like? What your day-to-day look like? What kind of problem will solve? What's the customer segmentation? And all of this, what's their pain point? And because that's what I've seen in the interviews, for example, TikTok or other like FAANG company, different companies, during the behavior interviews, they're going to test, are you able to do the job after you were hired or not? Let's say in the new company, you're going to work on your product. It's more B2C product, and you're going to do lots of A/B testing. And then when I ask you a question that will be around A/B testing or related towards that direction, or how many times we use data to make decision. What's really mean that once you join a company, you're going to do lots of A/B testing. So therefore, you can kind of predict the kind of interview questions if you think forward. Okay, and third, which is also I highly everybody to do, is have the product portfolio ready. And I know we emphasize this multiple times. Game has changed. Literally, game has changed. If you do have your product portfolio, you can leverage it for networking purposes or for your interview as a take-home exam, those kind of experience as a purpose to really help you to up the game and also help you to comb through your past experience by putting into the style product portfolio. You can do it like summarized version. As I mentioned, there's 3 different types of product portfolio. You can do summarized version and really think ahead of time. Is going to give you so much more miles for the short amount of time you put into the preparation process.
Love it. I'm curious how you react to sort of my 3 or 4 pieces of advice that I give the most often. So I'll actually give them one at a time, and you can maybe like either disagree or extend upon them.
Go ahead.
So the first one I see is that people simply haven't practiced by themselves enough. I find that people, they always jump to like paying me a couple $100s to get on the phone with me, or getting a bunch of free mocks on Exponent, or getting a bunch of free mocks through X or Y network with peers. And they think that that's going to do it. But I find that their rate of acceleration and improvement is maybe like this. Then I find a different group of people who are recording themselves. They're looking at the recordings and they're improving. And I find their rate of improvement is like this. It reminds me, growing up, I was, a competitive violinist. And there were like two types of people. There were the people who showed up to all of their practices and their individual lessons, and they signed up for more individual lessons. And then there was me, who I just had one individual lesson a week, but I far exceeded all those people because I practiced on my own every single day for a couple hours. So that's kind of the first area I typically am giving a lot of feedback to, is record yourself on video. What's your reaction to that?
I agree, and it's also one of the recommendations I gave to my students inside PM Accelerator as well. This is totally agree. This another analogy I tell other people is that you're awarded based on the effort you put in when nobody is seeing you.
Yeah.
Remember that. I learned it from Michael Jordan. He said this in one of the interviews.
Yeah, it's really the effort you're putting in when nobody's seeing you. So maybe instead of scheduling 2 mocks every single day from peers of questionable value, look at a couple of Nancy and I's piece of content, understand what you're looking for, and then just record yourself and critique yourself. I feel like that's my first area. The second thing that I find a lot of people doing, and again, this goes back to did you read my content, is they're not concise. So I'll ask them tell me about yourself, and I'll look at the timer and it's 6 minutes later and I basically just want to vomit and leave the call. It's just can you please be concise with your answers? For a question tell me about yourself, I don't want to hear, when I was growing up as a competitive violinist, I really liked bringing teams together. What the hell does that even mean? You do not need any of the generic stuff about your life. You do not need any of the generic stuff that they can see in your resume. Anytime you're talking, you should be adding value. You should assume that they've seen your resume and you're trying to put additional context or story on top of that. So maybe the context is emphasizing a strength. I'm a growth product leader. You're about to see how much I focus on revenue and I can drive revenue for you. Or maybe it's a weakness. You've seen me as a growth product leader and this is a core product role, but I have managed a lot of core product teams. So I find myself repeating that advice a lot.
I agree regarding the conciseness, and I time my students each time when I coach them. I was this session, when you introduce yourself, talk about the context, 1.5 minutes already passed. I don't cut them off in the middle, but as I record, I just I time all my students. Let's ready. I was this is way too long. And I gave them 2 minutes to finish it in general, but they can go longer depending on the type of questions. But I would just timer's up, go ahead. And I segment it. I was no, that's too long with me. And that's why this is very, very detailed feedback based on time stamp. Yeah. I need the AI to help out to make it more efficient.
Yeah. And so I don't know if people have watched the mock that I did on Nancy's channel, but before I would talk anytime, I just glanced at the time. I was 27:42 in this. So I need to make sure that I pause by 29:42. That's kind of my mental thing, is no more than 2 minutes of monologuing. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. Same here.
Yep. So it's 2 minutes is the absolute max, guys. Of the people who have done mocks with me in the last couple months, literally nobody has had a less than 2 minute tell me about you. So make sure you do. Then the third thing I find myself repeating over and over and over and over again is you have to use the product. This is a product management interview. You have to somehow get access to their product. And if they only allow work emails or they only have paid users, you should then ask your recruiter for access to the demo instance. What do you think about that, Zika?
I agree, and depends on the type of companies. And then also depends on the type of product you're going to interview for. And yes, if you interview with TikTok or any companies, Meta, Instagram, or even smaller company, yes, use it ahead of time as much as possible. We should also get ready just in case I ask you a question beyond the product, because we have seen this before, as you mentioned. Usually you ask your own company's problem, and then later on they ask, what about Google's? So then it's, of course, people use Google product or any other company's product. And I have seen this, lots of students just ask me the question, hey, Nancy, I never used this product before. The personal reasons. And then it's very hard for me to really think about how to drive user growth for the specific product. So yes, try to use the product ahead of time. And maybe startup is more relevant to their own type of product, and for larger companies that like to pick some other people's product. So just in general, I would recommend people do a very broad variety range of cases. Just get ready.
Awesome. And that's about it for our interview with Dr. Nancy Lee, who's working with people day in, day out. If there was like one final piece of advice that we haven't talked about today that, an aspiring FAANG PM should remember, what should it be?
Networking. We didn't talk about networking. It's critical. Nowadays, if you apply for jobs online, it's 1% of chance they will succeed. You must leverage networking strategies and pitch yourself and really have different kind of call to actions, depending who you talk to. Maybe you want to network with other people, ask for advice, you pitch a hiring manager, tell them why you're top 1% candidate. Networking is a key in today's economy and really getting very sharp and also building a brand on LinkedIn, because when you network, pitch somebody or connect with someone, people click your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile is, it's not good either. So entire networking LinkedIn branding strategies people need to learn. So on my YouTube channel, I have the sample examples regarding the 30 seconds elevator pitch, how you pitch to others. You can make a pitch shorter for LinkedIn message because it only allowed you like 300 characters. Original pitch, shorter, and pitch to others. Networking is the key.
Awesome. And so when you reference 300 characters, you're saying you should customize your invite and have that in your invitation request.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So many gems in here. Thank you for sharing. I would call that like a $500 coaching session for free. So really appreciate it.
Yeah, totally my pleasure. And thank you so much for having me sharing with your great audience.
Awesome. We'll have more videos like this coming up. So please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right. See you guys soon.